Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. The title of my presentation today is The Honeybee and Apitherapy in the Holy Quran, a comparative study with modern science. The objective of this study is to compare between what the Holy Quran had said about the honeybees and to compare this with what modern science says about the same issues that are mentioned in the Holy Quran. The chapter of the Holy Quran in which the bees are mentioned is chapter 16. We call the chapter in Arabic Surah, and the title of this chapter, chapter 16, is the bees. The number of verses talking about the bees in this chapter are 2 only out of 128 verses. Again, we do not call a sentence of the Holy Quran verse, we call it ayah. We call it ayah, so because the verse, the translation of verse in Arabic means a sentence of poetry, and the Holy Quran is not poetry. The first thing that draws attention is the number of the chapter, that is 16. The number of the chapter of the honeybees is chapter 16, and this number coincides with the number of chromosomes of 4 important species of honeybees that produce honey worldwide. Okay, so these species are Apis dorsata, Apis florea, Apis mellifera, and dorsata, florea, mellifera, and serrana. And I got this information from this reference, Asian Honeybees, Biology, Conservation, and Human Interactions. So I document my information from references, scientific references. In addition, we find that this reference, in nature, shows the number of chromosomes of Apis mellifera, that is the European honeybee. And as you notice from this graph, you find that the number of chromosomes is 16. That is 16 pairs, because we usually count chromosomes as pairs. So 16 pairs of chromosomes, that is 32 chromosomes. Is this a coincidence, or does it have another meaning, that the number of chromosomes coincides with the number of the chapter of the honeybee in the Holy Quran? The verses that talk about the honeybees, the text of these verses, in Arabic it says وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ, but I want to translate this. And thy Lord to the bee revealed to the bee, saying, take for yourselves among the mountains houses, and among trees, and among what they trellis. So this is verse 68. Then eat from all fruits, and follow the paths of thy Lord, made smooth for thee. There come forth from their bellies a liquor or a drink of different colors, wherein is healing for mankind. Most surely there is a sign in this for people who give thought. So these are the 2 verses. If you notice that the topics of that these 2 verses talk about are many. I counted about 11 or 10 topics. Okay, so it is amazing to see keywords for 10 topics in just two sentences, and we shall see this later on. I'd like to comment briefly on some of the pictures. As you see here, this is a swarm of honeybees flying in the air, searching for a place where they can build their home. And the other comment is that most of the pictures in this presentation are my own pictures, which I took. I started making photos of honeybees about more than 15 years ago. So this is another notice to take into consideration. The first thing that the verse 68 started with is revelation to the bees. In the Holy Quran, usually the concept of revelation is connected to the prophets. So God, or Allah in Arabic, reveals to the prophets and sends them messages to tell these messages to people. But revelation to the bees means inspiration or teachings of Allah to the bees, what to do in their life. And we shall see what was the content of revelation to the honeybees. The first thing, the revelation was done to the females. So the first point, what is the gender of the honeybee to which revelation was done? All the orders, we can see that all the orders were directed to the female honeybees. And in Arabic, if you notice the letters, these three letters indicate that the revelation is to the female honeybees. اتخذي كلي فاسلكي. So, yeah. Okay. So the revelation was done to the female honeybees. We ask the question, when was the gender of the honeybee discovered from a scientific point of view? Beekeeping before 1500, this is a critical date in the beekeeping science. Before 1500, it was not realized that the large king bee was in fact a female. And now we know, or after that date, and we shall see when, that the large insect in the hive, there is just one large insect, and it is the queen. It is the queen and not the king. And the other workers are females. So the queen and the workers are females, and there are males, of course, but they do not do much work except one thing: to mate with the queen to give us offspring, right? So the honeybee, the Holy Quran decided that the work is done by females, worker bees, okay? And when was the distinction done between the males and females? Charles Butler showed in his Feminine Monarchy, 1609, that the drones were male bees, okay? Then Richard Remnant in 1637 showed that the worker bees were females. So at this date only, it was known scientifically that the worker bees are females. But the Holy Quran decided that by using the words in the feminine text, feminine word refers to the female. Okay, so it decided that the workers who do the work, and we shall see what work was mentioned in the Holy Quran, that these females do. It decided that the insects who do, the bees who do the work, are the female bees. The first order, when we come now to the orders, the first order directed to the female honeybees, and thy Lord revealed to the bee, saying, take for yourself among the mountains houses, and among the trees, and among what they trellis. Okay? So the first thing is of revelation is to take houses. The building of the sentence and the words used in this sentence use, for example, the word min, which means from or among, from, in the three locations. The use of the word min, which means from, indicates that the mountains, trees, and what people trellis are the locations of houses and not the houses themselves. Okay, so it is the locations of houses. If the Holy Quran used the word in, which means fi, if the word used in instead of from, this means that the bees find a cave in the mountain or a hole in a tree, and they just go and enter this cave or hole and live there, and they do not build homes. Okay, and this was indicated by a scholar called Ibn Ashur in his tafsir, in his explanation for this ayah. And therefore we conclude that the use of the word min, which means from, and not in, which means fi, is that the mountains, trees, and what people trellis are locations, and honeybees build their homes or their houses. Okay, so it is not just a location where they go and live there, but they build their homes. This is what Ibn Ashur said in the explanation of this verse. As you notice here, this is a swarm in on a tree, olive tree. Okay. Again, we look back to the critical date 1500. Little was understood as to what went on inside the hive, for the events there could not be seen. It was not known that the bees themselves secreted the wax with which they built comb. So this is a reference in books. The book is The Hive and the Honeybee, that bees build comb. And notice here that the scientific word used, or the word used in scientific literature, is honeycomb or comb, right? And we want to compare this with what the Holy Quran said about the structure that the honeybees build. And then a correct description of the production of wax by bees was published by Hornbostel in Germany in 1744 only. So it was not known the source of wax that bees build their homes. And it was not known that bees build their homes. But the Holy Quran decided that bees build their homes by using two words. The use of min, which means from and not in, fi. And the other thing is that it used the word houses, buyutan, houses, right? So it decided that bees build their homes. So up till now, we saw that the gender of the honeybee is the female. The Holy Quran decided that the gender is the females. And secondly, that bees build their homes. And this coincides exactly or precisely with what modern science has discovered. The third point, the Holy Quran said the third location where bees build their homes or houses are on lifted things, such as a throne. A throne is lifted from the ground, such as this, where people might put trees, such as grapes, vine trees, and structures like this. So this is a swarm on an iron structure that is lifted above the ground. So it used the word, the Holy Quran used the word yarishun, which means a trellis, an uplifted or a hanging structure. And thy Lord revealed to the bee, saying, take yourselves, and this is the last place, which is a trellis. This is a trellis. And honeybees do build their homes at trellises that people do, different things, different trellises at different places, different kinds of trellises. Okay? This is yarishun. This is the principle of this is the principle that honeybees build their homes on this basis. Okay, so it is a ceiling and not a ground. The basis or the base of their homes is on the ceiling and not on the ground, as people do when they build their houses. They start from the ground, but the honeybees start from a ceiling and go downwards. We find that Langstroth, the inventor of modern hive, discovered the same thing. The discoverer, Langstroth, is the person who discovered this principle, and he invented the modern hive. He says, pondering as I had so often done before, and in a moment the suspended movable frames, that is trellises, the suspended movable frames kept at suitable distance from each other, that is the bee space, and the case containing them came into being. So there is a suitable distance between the frames or the combs, okay, and another distance between the floor of the hive and the combs or the frames of wax, right? And so it is a hanging structure. Seeing by intuition, as it were, the end from the beginning, I could scarcely refrain from shouting out my eureka in the open streets. So this was a great discovery by Langstroth. The hanging frames and the bee space. As you can see here, a modern hive with with wooden frames on which we attach the wax pieces. The second order after building homes, the second order directed to the honeybees is to eat from all fruits. ثم كلي من كل الثمرات. This is the verse. The word الثمرات, the translation of الثمرات into English means fruits. Fruits. The Quran used fruits instead of flowers. Why is that? And as we know, the fruits are the products that we eat, and the honeybees do not eat from fruits in general, as a general rule, but they eat from flowers. When do they eat from fruits? In one case, when the fruit is injured. When the fruit is injured, they can sip or suck the sweet material from the fruits, right? So, why did the Holy Quran use the word fruit and not flower from which the honeybees eat? A reference, this may be considered a reference to sexuality if we look at the meaning of fruit in another chapter. It is chapter 13. Chapter 13. Its title is the thunder. And in verse in verse 3, I think. Okay, it says, and of all fruits he placed therein two spouses, male and female. This translation is by Pictal, and another translation, and out of all kinds of fruits he made thereon, that is, on earth, pairs, زوجين اثنين. So زوجين means a pair, that is two individuals. One is male and the other is female. So whenever زوجين is mentioned, it refers to male and female, right? So the term زوج refers to an individual, زوجين refers to a pair. Whenever the dual form زوجين is used, it invariably signifies a pair comprising both sexes, males and females. Therefore, we can conclude that الثمرات also has another meaning in addition to fruits. This meaning is the flowers, and this also is a reference to sexuality in plants. When was sexuality discovered in plants? What does modern science say about the relationship between fruits and flowers? What is a flower? A flower is the reproductive structure found in flowering plants. And what is a fruit? In botany, a fruit is the ripened ovary together with seeds of a flowering plant. From the definition of the flower and the fruit, we conclude that the pericarp, this pericarp eaten or outer part of the fruit represents the wall of the ovary of the flower, while the seed or the seeds represent the fertilized part of the flower, which is the ovule united with a sperm from a pollen grain. So this is the relationship between a flower and a fruit, and every part of the flower has an analogy with a part in the fruit. Why did the Holy Quran use the word fruits instead of the word flowers? Because we can explain this because every person can see honeybees visiting flowers. So what is the information? There is no new information in this. But when the Holy Quran used fruits instead of flowers, which means flowers, this is a reference that honeybees contribute to the pollination of flowers and to the production of fruits. And this is a fact, a scientific fact. What does science say about this? In 1694, in his book On the Sex of Plants, Camerarius produced clear experimental evidence for the sexuality of plants, first proposed by John Ray and Nieman Grew. Before this, sexuality in plants was not known. And you find here in this picture that the honeybee, when working on a flower, pollen grains drop on its body, and during movement it transfers the pollen from the male parts to the female parts. By the botanist Camerarius of Tübingen, by Moreland and by Geoffrey, it was made clear that in the absence of pollen from anthers of stamens, no fertilization of ovum or formation of seed is possible. During the 19th century, various apicultural journals were beginning to extol the virtues of the honeybee as the best pollinating agent. And pollination means fertilization, and fertilization means production of seeds inside fruits. Right? So this is the reason, I think, why the Holy Quran used fruits and not flowers to indicate this point. What is the meaning of the verse then? Then eat from all fruits. We have two possible meanings: to eat and then go to the field to collect food from flowers. The second thing, to eat food from flowers and come back home. The sequence of the verse, the sequence of ideas in the verse in Arabic states that eating is done before flying to the field. Now, do forager bees eat before they fly to the field? This is a logical question. Upon disposing of her load, that is the forager bee, when it collects nectar and comes back to the hive, it loads her gets rid of load of nectar. A nectar gatherer sometimes leaves for the field immediately, but usually she pauses long enough to secure a small amount of food. So the forager bee consumes some honey before leaving again to the field to collect more nectar. And this coincides with the arrangement of the sequence of the verse. That is, eating before going to the field. The third order directed to the female honeybees فَاسْلُكِي سُبُلَ رَبِّكِ ذُلُلًا, and follow the ways or paths of thy Lord made smooth or submissive for thee. Okay, what is the meaning of the verb فَاسْلُكِي in Arabic? It has two meanings. The first meaning is to walk on a road. Do honeybees walk on roads, or they fly, right? So, to walk on a road, فَاسْلُكِي, to pass something into another thing. Okay? Now, the first meaning of the verb فَاسْلُكِي refers to the navigation and communication system of the forager bee, because it described the ways as ذُلُلًا. The word ذُلُلًا means smooth or submissive, easy. And if the insects or the bees have easy communication or easy travel, this means in navigation, travel through flying, and this means that the honeybees have a communication system and they exchange information. How honeybees do this easily? The Holy Quran predicted that there is a highly developed communication system that the honeybees use, which makes difficult jobs performed by such an insect very easy. So this is the prediction because it used the word ذُلُلًا, and follow the ways of thy Lord made smooth for thee. This is a graph indicating how do bees go from their hives to the field and come back. If they have an obstacle, a mountain or a hill in the way, how do they behave? This is explained by von Frisch. He says, if bees have to fly around an obstacle, big rock or high mountains, to the source of food, they will indicate by their dance, when they come home, the direction toward the feeding place in the straight line which they have never flown. Okay? Because when they come to the rock or mountain or hill, they make a detour, but they point out to the field from the hive by their dance. They point out to the field from the hive by a straight line. The honeybee uses landmarks, the position of the sun, and polarized light during their flight. This is von Frisch and another Lindor, 1954. That they should be able to do this without protractors, slide rule, and the drawing board to work out so exactly the direct line between the hive and the feeding place from the detour they have made is surely one of their most amazing achievements. Von Frisch shared a Nobel Prize in 1973 for his research and contribution in bees communication. He said also what these animals can tell each other about the feeding places they have discovered, and how in doing this they deal with abnormally different situations is beyond anything we should have expected of insects. How can we explain this? We may say that it is revelation to the bees by their creator. The second meaning of the verb فَاسْلُكِي is to pass something into another thing. Okay? For example, we can say that if we have a thread and we want to pass it in the hole of a needle, we pass it from here and it comes out from here. This is the other meaning. So it enters something and goes out from the other side. And follow the ways of thy Lord made smooth for thee. And in this case, if something goes to the digestive system or to the place where primary ingredients are converted to a product, it is not a job that needs effort, in a sense that it is not under the will, but it is easy, it goes automatically, as we say. Right? So, 4 Islamic scholars explained the verse taking into consideration the 2 meanings of the verb, to walk in a road and to pass something into another thing. They said, God inspires the worker bees to eat from all the fruits. So this is the first thing. Then pass what you have eaten in his paths, that is in the body of the honeybee. With his power, he converts the food into honey within your body. Or follow the paths he inspired you in the manufacturing of honey. Or walk back to your home in the roads without any obstacles, so that you do not get astray. So this is an explanation not on a basis of scientific information, but on the thinking, but on the meaning of the words in Arabic. The word fasluki, when it has 2 meanings, these scholars explained the verse in this way, or part of the verse in this way. The description of the ways by the word smooth, dhulula, is a proof that the meaning of subul, roads, is the way. The explanation of the meaning of subul is the ways in which the food passes inside the bodies of the bees, and not the roads of flight of the bees, as Ibn Abd Salam, this is another scholar, had suggested in his explanation of the verse. Okay. What is the result of eating and of passing food in the ways or paths of the bee's body? The result, the Holy Quran describes this immediately after the word thulula. Yakhruju, comes out. Yakhruju, the translation is comes out from its abdomens. A drink of different colors. There come forth from their bellies a drink of varying colors. What does modern science say about this? The result of eating. If we look at the forager bee when it comes back from the field and it meets an indoor bee or house bee, this forager bee opens its mouth and pushes a drop, the nectar from the honey stomach to the mouth, and this house bee comes to suck the nectar from the mouth of the forager bee. The forager bee, loaded with nectar, enters the hive, and soon as she approaches a house bee, the field bee opens her mandibles wide apart and forces a drop of nectar out over the upper surface of the proximal portion of her proboscis. The house bee stretches out her proboscis to full length and sips the nectar, that is eating action, sips the nectar from between the mandible of the forager bee. The entire process of disposing of her load often is accomplished in less time than it takes to describe it. So, the eating of the forager bee is to collect the nectar, and the eating of the indoor bee is to sip or suck the nectar from the forager bee. Then, what happens? As the nectar which the field bee collects is passed to the house bee from mouth to mouth, the wonderful physical processes, chemical processes, physical and chemical processes, changes, converted to honey. Water must be evaporated from the nectar, and finally the nectar, the honey is produced, which has less than 18% water, less than, and 80% solids. The Holy Quran used the word sharab, a drink, and it did not use the word honey. People may think that what comes out from the honeybee, indoor honeybee, is honey. This was the case before we discovered that bees do not collect honey. Right? Let us see. What does science say? Latin name for the honeybee, Apis mellifera, means honey-bearing bee. So this was the old idea. The name was coined, that is the scientific name, Apis mellifera, was coined in 1758 by Carlos Linnaeus, who, realizing that bees do not bear honey later on, but nectar, tried later to correct it to Apis mellifica, that is honey-making bee. So it is not a honey-bearing bee, but honey-making bee. However, the older name has precedence. What is the result of eating and passing honey and pollen in the parts of the bodies of the house bee? The result is there come forth from their bellies a drink of varying colors. The word alwanuhu in Arabic, which is translated as colors, in Arabic has two meanings. Alwanuhu, colors, has two meanings. Colors, the normal color that all of us know, and the second meaning is types in Arabic, anwa. If we look now at the meaning of the verse, taking into consideration the two Arabic meanings of the word alwanuhu, then it will be colors and types. We find that it means there comes forth from within their bodies a drink of varying colors and or of different types. So colors, different colors and different types. The Holy Quran had established the fact that different types of liquids of different colors come out from within the bodies of female indoor honeybees as a result of eating food, that is honey and pollen. Modern science showed that house bees produce wax, royal jelly, and bee venom in addition to making honey from nectar. What does modern science say about the food indoor female honeybees eat to produce the other three types of liquids? The first liquid is royal jelly. Being high in protein, it is synthesized during the digestion of pollen, although it is believed that honey is also added to the secretion. Bee wax, secreted by 4 pairs of wax glands, is discharged as a liquid through the millers and hardens to small flakes in the pockets. To produce 1 pound of wax, an average of 8.4 pounds of honey are needed. Bee venom, a sugar diet devoid of pollen, has been found to be undesirable for the formation of venom. What are the characteristics of these different liquids of different colors and types? The characteristic is that they are curative liquids, and the term used to describe this in scientific literature is apitherapy, that is the use of beehive products to treat diseases. I prefer to use epicure because the Holy Quran used the word shifa, which means cure. So the Holy Quran proceeded a step further to establish another fact, that these liquids have curative properties for humankind. Evidence for the curative properties of these liquids can be seen in the literature, in scientific papers, published scientific research, the internet, in the PubMed, in the Direct Science, Epimondia, epitherapy societies, epitherapy congresses, epitherapy clinics and hospitals, patients' testimonials, etc. We can conclude from this previous discussion that the Holy Quran, more than 1400 years ago, established 11 scientific facts before they were discovered, which proves its divine origin, and that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the messenger of Allah. The scientific facts are here mentioned. And finally, I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.